What is up, fanboys and fangirls? Welcome to another episode of A Review to a Kill over here on fanboysanonymous.com. We are rolling along here with From Recap with Love, where we are breaking down more elements of the James Bond series and getting into some tier list type content. We're doing Mount Rushmore lists and really just sort of going over what we've already talked about movie by movie and breaking down those elements in a little finer tooth comb, looking at over that and, kind of doing that kind of shtick. We've done a lot of these already, so you probably know how this works by now, with the henchmen and the villains and the theme songs and other kind of things like that, but we'll break down exactly how that works in at least this way, because it's a little bit different this time around, a little bit later on. But first things first, if you are brand new, go back and listen to like 40 episodes at this point or whatever, what it was, maybe 35 episodes, something along those lines. 25 movies that we had gone through, plus the original one and all the other episodes. But if you don't know who we are, and you really are brand new to this channel entirely, I am Tony Mango. I've got with me Robert DeFelice.
Yes, we're breaking down all the gadgets, magic penis not included.
No, that would have been number one automatically. And Callum Wiggins.
Inspector Gadget.
I'm picturing Claw right now with the cat, full on Blofeld mode. Exactly how it works.
Not in the wheelchair, got screaming down a chimney.
Inspector Gadget! So, the way we've been doing this, and I'm going to switch this over to where you can see this on my screen now. We've been doing things like, here's the henchman list, where we've had actual S tier, A tier, etc., and we've gone through and done these Mount Rushmores. We're not going to do that the same way for the gadgets, because there's just too many of them. I mean, I don't even have a full-on list of all the gadgets, because while we were going through the movies, it was kind of a question of, well, do you constitute that as a gadget? Does this count? Does that count? Does it count as a gadget if it's something else that's used that Bond doesn't use? If it's not from Q Branch, like it's something from the enemies, or what constitutes the difference between a regular thing, like just a cell phone that Bond uses that happens to have a slightly different kind of technology versus something that's off the ball fucking crazy, like a Crocodile Submarine or whatever. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to focus more so on list-wise the Mount Rushmore. And I'm going to have this up on my screen, these handy-dandy fandom wiki articles and these Wikipedia pages and everything. We're going to go through some different things here, and we're going to kind of look at it from that kind of perspective and give everybody sort of a rundown of how this all played out, and our positives, our negatives, and whatever we end up saying. So strap yourselves in, drop your comments below, tell us your thoughts on everything that's going on with these kind of things that we're going to be talking about. Make sure that you are subscribed if you haven't done that already. Ring the notification bell, hit the applause button, hit the join button if you want to be a part of the members-only content. Join the Patreon if you want to support us in that way. There's TeePublic and Redbubble shops for merchandise. Hit the like button, hit the share button, all the other good stuff that goes along with that. Now, if that's out of the way, gadgets. Lots of good gadgets, lots of stupid ones. This series has a wide variety of things. If I say James Bond gadget, what comes to your mind?
Put me on the spot a little bit there. Honestly, the first one is probably just because I've been looking at the list and stuff like that. But the main thing is that multifaceted briefcase from Russia with Love.
I'm surprised you'd go with From Russia with Love, since that was really low on your list.
Yeah, but that's the first real gadget you get.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, cool. He's now got this. He's got this briefcase. Can do a million different things except store clothes.
I thought of the pen, the exploding pen from GoldenEye.
I typically think of the watch laser from GoldenEye just because of how often I was playing the level train in the GoldenEye game. But I guess if you were to go with a synonymous one per Bond, that might be something that we might need to come back on or something, just because every Bond has at least some gadgets here and there. Lazenby, not as much, but and Craig, not as much either. But there's some synonymous cars, which we're kind of working in here as gadgets, because the gadgets and the cars, they work in the same kind of realm. You know, the cars have gadgets in them. You know, behind the headlights, Stinger missiles and everything like that. And the cars, I'll admit, I am going to have far less to say about because I'm not a car guy. So I apologize to everybody who ends up being like, how come you're not talking about how beautiful this car is? And I'm like, I don't appreciate any of that kind of stuff. I'm not a car guy. So if you guys end up wanting to get into more of like the aesthetics of the cars themselves, we of course could. But I think that might be a good way to start because that could be something we can knock out a little bit easier. If you think James Bond car, we're all thinking the same car, right? Aston Martin Dbs from Goldfinger.
Whatever that thing is that like rolls down the hill. I can't remember in which movie it was. Like, it's the one that I can't remember the Bond girl's name off the top of my head, but
Melina.
Yeah,
from For Your Eyes Only.
Yeah, the Bond gets into her car and it's like a Volkswagen Beetle or something like that, and just rolls down the hill constantly.
So let's just kind of look through here. I'm sharing my screen for these guys, and obviously you on YouTube, you can see this as well. You know, stop me if I go past a thing that you want to kind of chime in about or something, but like I couldn't remember this for the life of me. It's just a car. Whatever.
It had a nice convertible in Doctor No, but it's nothing like super special.
I don't think that there was any kind of...
The most things I remember from like the old Bond movies in terms of cars is the terrible cine screen that was always behind Bond whenever he was driving.
And the ability for all the other cars to instantly combust.
Yeah.
It's like you know, they hit a fly on the windshield and the whole thing just is engulfed in flames. Bentley, yeah, I don't remember anything really about that one either. So looking through this, like this was apparently the car that was happening at From Russia with Love. I don't know.
I thought that was just the car that he boned Sylvia Trench in for the second time.
I guess this is the most recognizable one technically because both these lists just have that one. So not much going on with that one either. And then you get the... Oh, that's a weird picture. Let's go back to this one. You get the car for the series.
Well, that's not the DB5. You're looking at your car before that. The one above it is the DB5. Go on the other screen. The one above is the DB5, not that. That's the DB5.
Yeah, but I was just saying that this was an ugly car.
Yeah, that's an awful 202. Yeah, that's like...
Yeah, that's just an ugly car. Yeah. This Toyota, whatever it is. But yeah, the DB5 is the James Bond car.
Yeah, well, that's like the king of the Mount Rushmore, the granddaddy of the Mount Rushmore of James Bond cars. Which,
I mean, we might as well just do it, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's the car most synonymous with the franchise. It's been in multiple movies.
Right.
They bring it back all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one car that you would picture continues to go forward, and it's partially because of the success of Goldfinger, but it's also a lot of people just really appreciate the car. To me, I'm not a huge fan of the way that the car looks, other than the fact that it's silver, but I'm not a fan of two-door cars. I'm not a fan of very round designs, but it's got great stuff for it. I mean, it's got the ejector seat, which is fantastic, and that has multiple uses in the different movies. It does have the machine guns, it's got the smoke screen, it's got the GPS tracker and everything. So it's not only a synonymous car because of just the looks of it, but it's also, hey, look, the gadgets are not just a briefcase. They're going to be things in cars. They're going to be other things that are more technological and everything. Easily the top of the list when it comes to Mount Rushmore stuff.
Yeah, it's iconic.
This thing ugly as hell.
Yeah, completely ugly. So the name threw me off for a second. I was like, that says 2000.
Yeah.
I know there's no fucking way that car was around 20 years ago. Like, God, that's ugly.
It's the old, you read the old like sci-fi things, and it's like
it's all 2000. Ooh.
Like in the near future or the distant future of 1984, kind of deal. Or like 2001: A Space Odyssey. At that point, it seemed like I was going to be forever, and here we are, 20 years past that. And everybody's like, "Well, the world's shit." So
the planet's on fire,
right? I don't have a whole lot of memories about the one from Our Majesty's Secret Service.
What a surprise.
Yeah. It's not only one of the movies that I've seen the least, but I'm not big on the cars to begin with, so.
Yeah, it does. It didn't stick out to me in particular. But looking at Aston Martin, though. Aston Martin's great.
Now, Tracy's is a little bit more memorable for me because they do have the whole part at the beginning of it where he's following Tracy when she's driving, and then she does come pick him up, which is what this scene is from. With the whole, do you know where Christmas trees have grown?
Awful song.
Awful song. The lowest of the ranked for us when it comes to that. But Diamonds Are Forever, we get this scene.
Yeah.
The one that magically Bond is able to turn the car and flip it to the other side in an alley. I don't know why that's the case.
So, obviously, set in America, a lot of Diamonds Are Forever set in America, so the Ford Mustang it's like, again, it's one of the most iconic cars of all time. Makes its appearance into this as well, but I'm personally not a fan of that was like too bizarre for Sean Connery's Bond for me. But Diamonds Are Forever is the most bizarre Bond movie of all time.
It's true.
It really is.
Now, it's been a couple weeks since we've recorded any of these, and obviously, like, opinions change over time and everything, but Rob, have you come around to the idea that Diamonds Are Forever is garbage?
It's still a fun time. It's not flat out garbage yet.
So for this type of a thing, I mean, we might end up doing, we haven't quite settled on it yet. We might end up doing a worst and a best, but I don't know if I'd go so far as to say this is one of the worst. It's just in a weird spot of the films.
Well, was one of the worst scenes, but like, it's not the car's fault.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this then. This Amc Hornet, which it's a car model I've never heard of before, but it absolutely 100% must go on the Mount Rushmore.
Well,
is the greatest car stunt in Bond history. It must go onto this Mount Rushmore list. It is too good of that one scene. Is one of the greatest scenes in the Bond franchise from an action and stunt perspective.
The jump itself, I think, warrants it to at least be in the discussion for it. Wait, was it Amc Hornet? That's what it was?
Mm.
Or am I, okay, AMC. So when people go to see the movies, they know which one it is. The stunt's fantastic. They ruined it a little bit with the slide whistle, of course. You know, just, but I don't like the car itself at all. I hate that design, but that scene is something that is on every Bond compilation thing. Whenever they're trying to be like, oh man, the series and like all the great stunts and everything, it's always on there. And the fact that they did it for real is just crazy.
That I think is what makes it have to go on the Mount Rushmore. They did it for real.
Does it get extra points that it's got Sheriff J.W. Pepper inside of it?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if it had like burst into flames, then maybe. But
well, that's typical for Bond cars. This is actually an outlier.
But yeah, I'm very cool with it being included in it just for that scene alone.
So this from The Spy Who Loved Me.
I do like the Lotus Esprit. It is something that has always happened.
It is an odd car, but it's one of the most iconic ones in the series. It's something that, I mean, they carried it over through, here you go again with For Your Eyes Only, and they make fun of the whole idea of like, let's just get rid of the car and switch over to this. We'll go back to that in a moment. But it's got a lot of gadgets to it, the submarine stuff. It's a little over the top, but at the same time, it's very, very memorable. And they made bank on these kind of things too. Like a lot of these end up being really good product placement deals, and then ends up being like they sell like hotcakes. I don't know why that's always a phrase. People just buying pancakes all over the place.
Fucking pancakes are great.
And people just kind of like, give me shit ton of pancakes, you know, that kind of deal. But I'd make the argument that this more than likely is going to go on there.
I think it's definitely a contender. It's just well, in the second movie, like the For Your Eyes Only, it appears in like its turbo form, but essentially it's the same model that appears in 2 movies. And yeah, especially considering the fact that was the first real submarine car as well. That gives it a bit of extra credence to be on the list as well.
Of course, it sucks in this one. But then you end up getting Melina's car, and
it's a funny scene.
It's funny, and it's just absolutely terrible. I'd put it on the worst list for sure, because it's gimmick.
I don't know, because like I don't want to put it on the, because it entertained me, it being there.
So you'd go more for worst being like it has to be bad as opposed to.
Well, I feel like it's like it has to be involved in something memorable, because even though it's one of those cases where I don't know whether I should be criticizing the car itself for just being an ugly, slow car, or for its use in the actual movie itself. Because that was a good scene, even if there was a really, really bad car. I mean, look at that one below, the Bajaj RE. That's terrible. That's a terrible fucking car.
See,
but that scene is so much fun.
Octopussy sucks.
I don't even know if I'd constitute this a car. I don't know why they necessarily even put this on here.
It's got wheels.
Auto rickshaw more than anything else. Yeah, but bikes have wheels and go on the road. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like this is, again, it's one of those cars where, again, as a car, it is a terrible, or whatever you want to approximate it as, it's a terrible version of it. But it did something really fun in the movie, so I don't really want to put it on the worst list, because even though it's a bad car, I had fun in its time on the screen.
I'm going to put this in the potential, because I'm going to try to potentially make an argument for it. I don't know exactly what, we're going to end up going with, but memorable scene with the whole thing with VJ and the tennis racket and all that. Fun as hell, that's for sure. Octopussy's got a lot of fun moments in it. This In A View to a Kill, the taxi scene is a lot of fun too, but honestly, I can't go anywhere close to it being on either of these lists. It's actually not super duper memorable to me, even though I've watched the movie more than a lot of other ones.
Yeah, it has that one slice scene.
It's middle of the road.
It's just a Renault.
It's all over the road, not just the middle of the road.
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome. I had to. Come on, it's way too easy.
I mean, this isn't one of the more memorable chase scenes in general, really.
And the Rolls Royce, why can't I talk? Yeah, nothing really happens. Tippett gets killed in it. Fine.
Yeah, it's just a fancy car. It's just a fancy car for a butler to drive someone in.
Yeah. Now I love this part of The Living Daylights. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say the car itself gets into the Mount Rushmore, but to me it's worth the discussion because it's got a lot of fun gadgets to go along with it. There's that little part with, you can see here, where he's taking out the police car and he's just like, oh, must be salt corrosion. And, like, the heads-up display blowing up things with the missiles, and Kara is just sort of confused as all hell, but acting like she's not all that freaked out about it at the same time, which is kind of strange. I think that's a great scene. I love that whole element to it. I love when they get on the little skis and they're going around and they get into the cabin. That whole element to that. I'd put it in the discussion. How about you guys?
I go based on what I feel like the cars that are still going to be coming up at this point. I'd say
it's not going to make it.
Maybe worth a discussion, but it's not going to be in the final four.
There are some big ones coming up, that's for sure. Because we got this Aston Martin, Okay, it's already on the
It's
list.
a DB5, yeah.
So
the DB5 encompasses every single time a DB5 is used in the series.
yeah, and the elements when it comes to GoldenEye, we don't really get to see a whole lot of car stuff like that because he drives the tank around. So we get this BMW that we are told has a whole bunch of gadgets in it. The Stinger missiles, the the ejector seat, the radar, all these kind of things. And instead of getting to see it in action, he tosses the keys to Jack Wade, says, "Don't push any buttons on the car." And he goes, "I'm just going to go bombing around in it." And we don't see it anymore. So screw the BMW.
That's one of the worst ones, I think.
It's very underwhelming in a lot of ways because it could have been something really cool. And they had ideas for what they could have done with it. But, the movie's already kind of long, so... This one, though...
I like this BMW.
I'm going to go so far as to say this one's practically a lock. Of course, we're going to play around with this a little bit, but, like, that whole thing is just fantastic. Bond's got the cell phone that he's controlling it. It's got, like, 15 gadgets that get used in the one thing. It talks, Don't let her bully you around, or whatever he says.
Yeah, that's got to be on it to me. Like, that whole scene, just the backseat driver scene, is just great.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely a top contender for it. I don't know whether it's a lock just yet, but it's definitely high up there.
Listen, I mean, the invisible car, will give it a run for its money, but I don't think it'll be on there.
No, the invisible car's one of the... We might as well go down to that one.
It's literally
that's going to be one of the worst ones.
Yeah, it's going to be on that list for sure.
BMW Z8. I don't remember too much about the BMW Z8 one.
It's mostly the sequence with the caviar factory.
The helicopter and the store and stuff like that.
It's fine.
It does a few bits there, but the most memorable thing it does in that movie is get chopped in half, essentially.
Right. It kind of gets its place taken by the boat at the beginning of the film.
Mm.
In a regular film, that would have been a car sequence, and then they wouldn't have had this whole thing. So we're not counting the boat. The boat's more of a gadget. We can get to that a little bit, but yeah, not going on the other list in my mind. Fun stuff, but nothing super great. This is just a car, so there's nothing more to this. Mojito? But the Vanquish.
Yeah, it's so disappointing to me because it's such a beautiful car, but it's that the invisible stuff is just way too.
It's called the Vanquish. What would you expect from a car called the Vanquish?
Well, I'd expect it to be called the Vanish.
But that's what the actual one was. The Aston Martin calls it the Vanish, or they call it the Vanquish. We call it the Vanish. That whole kind of deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a bit. It's a bit too far even for Bond standards.
And again, it's like there's some cool parts to it, but they went overboard, and then it becomes just ridiculous, and you lose it when you get a little bit too silly. So then they go back to just cars for like the rest of the series, and in a lot of ways, that's a better way of doing it. But there's not much going on to a lot of these cars either. It's really more so just, and it's not on this list, but the car inspector is really like the car out of these Daniel Craig films that has something to it, because he's just driving around in the DBS, flips it, which the flip scene, great. They actually did that stunt too. And I mean, they're cool looking cars, but I don't think I'd put any of them on the best or the worst list.
I mean, I just adore the aesthetics of the Aston Martin Dbs. It's just one of the most beautiful cars that I think has ever been produced. And you have similar ones in that, like the Aston Martin DB10, which is the one that does have all the gadgets, Inspector. That's also a beautiful looking car. But again, these are ones that are judged more on the aesthetics than what they actually do within the movie itself. But if it was my list, I would make an argument for the Aston Martin DBS, but I don't feel like it would be a strong enough case to dislodge what we already have there.
Mm-hmm.
I do love it though.
It is great.
So we have, at the very least with this, we've got 5 options. that we were thinking about Mount Rushmore-ish. Unless you guys have anything else
I
you
don't
want
see the
to...
V8 moving any of those four though.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Aston
I'm okay
Martin
with that.
V8 is the one that's is on the outside looking in.
I'm okay with that, because even though the Hornet is really just one stunt, that stunt's just great, so it gets a boost for that. And unless we have other things, these would be our
And
four
there you
worst.
go. There's Mount Rushmore the worst.
Well, I don't want to put cars just because they're bad in the thing. I want to put cars that don't serve any kind of purpose. Because even the more in the more beautiful Craig ones, even though they don't really serve purpose in terms of like gadgets or scenes and stuff like that, their purpose is they look fucking cool and Bond drives a cool looking car. I'd say the Z3 doesn't have a purpose in it, but I think both the Citroen and the Bajaj have good things that happen in them. Maybe something like trying to have a look at some of these ones. The Renault Taxi, maybe. It's like maybe that's just because I feel like you could just put any car into that scene.
But then if it's just the any cars, then they don't stand out to me either.
Well,
Like
that's what I'm judging them against. The fact like, oh, they don't stand out to me. Like I remember
would
the
you put the
Citroen.
BMW from GoldenEye on there since it's like, oh, look at all it does, and then you don't?
I'd put it on there because it is just, hey, BMW is a Bond thing, and it's just a cash grab more than anything else. So that's like,
I can agree with that.
Annoying in that. But like, I mean, you got this car here from Die Another Day, and it's just an ugly looking car, and it doesn't do anything. And I don't know, it's ugly, so I'd put it on like my least favorite, but at the same time, I don't think it's offensive. The same in the way with like any of the other ones that are like the one from Dr. No. Well, it's just sort of like, yeah, it's just a car. So it's like, well,
I'd certainly put the Bentley Mark IV among those lists just because, as I'm reading it from the list here, so like it's just all it's used is he bangs Sylvia Trench in it.
You know what though?
That's its only feature in the entire movie.
I think we can make a case for the Toyota. Because
for the Toyota.
Not only is it ugly, but remember, he was not able to comfortably fit in it.
Oh, yeah.
There was the whole thing where he was too tall for it and had to cut the
car that he never drives, isn't it?
Yeah, because Aki is the one doing it. Yeah. So I think that should go there.
I'm fine putting the Toyota in there. It's an ugly looking thing. And imagine, like, as this is the only movie that James Bond himself doesn't drive in, so...
So, I mean, if we go with those three, we need one other one. And I don't think we should put the rickshaw on there. Because it is a rickshaw more than a car.
Oh, well, then I know what we're putting. We're putting the Ford Mustang in there. But because if we put in the what's it called, put the Hornet in there for one great stunt scene, we should put the Mustang in there for one really bad stunt scene.
I agree with it.
If we're putting the Hornet for the great scene, we have to put the other one for the Diamonds Are Forever scene.
All right, so that's the gadget side of things for cars. Now we get into the gadgets, which that is. Let's get rid of these vehicle things here. These things and more. So, yeah. We could go movie to movie. We could bounce around. I'll say this. There are maybe about 20 gadgets that I'd say are Mount Rushmore worthy on the positive side of things. I don't know how many that are Mount Rushmore worthy on the negative side of things.
Because I can think of a few.
There's some that are really dumb, and there are some that are just sort of useless, and I don't know how offensive it would be in comparison, you know?
Can we try and establish at least a criteria? Are we only going to be referencing gadgets that Bond himself uses, or are we going to talk about stuff that villains use, henchmen use, stuff that was developed by Q Branch but Bond never actually uses himself?
I'd make the argument that if it's from a villain, it can't go on the Mount Rushmore.
So Oddjob's hat can't be.
Right, yeah.
Can't be a
like
gadget.
That's a tool, and it's something that he uses, and it's gadget-y, but
because I was going to make a really strong case if it was more expansive like that for one of the worst being Doctor No's hands.
Well, what we could do is we could always have something like, I would assume if we have like the expansion type of thing, Oddjob's hat becomes one of the go-to things. Jaws' teeth becomes a go-to thing on like the positive, and then we've got Dr. No's hands, that kind of deal. We could, if we end up thinking of other things like that, I'll keep adding that to the list.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say too, the gun doesn't count. The Walther PPK, the Walther P99, the Beretta, it's just a gun. It's not a real gadget, All
right. Do we expand that to in especially I can't remember which one it was exactly, but I think it was Spectre. We talk about the gun that is imprinted to Bond's like grip or his fingerprints or anything like that, so it only works for Bond.
Yeah, so that's in Skyfall and in
Skyfall, yeah.
And in Live and Let Die. And the one in not Live and Let Die, License to Kill. License to Kill is the signature rifle. That's definitely a gadget in my mind, because it's a camera that you make into that kind of thing. The one in Skyfall is just a gun, but the fact that there's not anything really in the Craig things other than stuff like a radio transmitter and a phone, it's kind of the most gadgety thing that he has, but it's still just a gun. So like, to me, that's, if it would go on either Mount Rushmore, it'd be the worst, but I don't think it's necessarily one of the worst.
Okay. Well, why don't we just start talking about someone, because as you said, there are way, way, way too many of this stuff. So I think we should just try and talk about some of the ones that we feel like could go in the discussion either way.
Yeah, the things that stand out.
And just focus on that, and then the rest of it can just fall into the minutia of, hey, no one really wants to talk about the Geiger counter in the first Bond movie or something like that.
An earpiece, a radio transmitter, radioactive lint. Like, we might talk about that for a different thing, but
yeah. Well, I want to talk about the one that I mentioned earlier, and I want to talk about this briefcase from Russia with Love, because it was very, very versatile. Let's put it that way, and it played a huge part throughout the entire thread of that movie.
I'm going to be putting things on this list on the side here that are going to be things that are worth this discussion, that we need to eventually probably decide which things are going to go where and all that. The attaché case is fantastic.
Yes.
It's useful as all hell in multiple scenes. He has it in another movie too, which is great. And they kind of imply that might be like a standard thing going forward, that he just didn't use it in some of the other movies or anything, and maybe some other missions. It's the first gadget, like you were saying earlier, Callum. The knife is useful.
It's the first notable gadget. It actually just lists the first gadget in Bond history as that Geiger counter.
Yeah, which is like,
Yeah, no.
Who cares? And like the cyanide cigarettes that like the villain uses and whatever. Yeah, he's got a watch that has a radioactive signal on it. Who fucking cares? Dr. No's not that fun. But the briefcase is just, it's just cool in like a simplistic kind of spy way. Like a spy would have something like that, where they can have this hidden compartment in something that's a useful everyday item. It's not over the top crazy. It's not too fantastical. And it's actually useful. Yeah,
I think it's one of the best ones, just because it's fantastical and yet it's still grounded in reality.
I almost feel like it has to go on the Mount Rushmore right now. Like, we have to lock it in now, because it is the first, and it is so useful in that movie.
I think, obviously, I don't think we should lock anything in just yet, because we have so many things to discuss, but I think it's going to be a hard to dislodge one.
Yeah, that's one that I don't know if I'm going to end up going full blown. It has to be a part of the 4, but it's in the discussion, that's for sure. So we'll put a pin in that for now, but it's a strong contender. It's a very strong contender, that's for sure. I wouldn't say the same when it comes to some. I mean, we also wouldn't classify something like the Red Grant's watch as being like a James Bond gadget in the same kind of way. But I think a general rule of thumb, I don't know if you guys feel the same way about it as I do, but anything that's like a bug detector is just like, bleh. You know, there's nothing really to talk about for it.
It's just something that is like standard spy equipment.
Same thing with cameras. Well, you know, the camera that Bond has in Moonraker with the little 007 on it, which is like, why the hell would you put that on there? But like, it's a camera.
Because he's the world's worst spy, because he always just tells people exactly who he is and introduces himself by name.
My name's Bond. My name's Bond, James Bond. It's spelled JAMES BOND, Agent
Here's my social
007.
security number and my mother's maiden name.
I work for Universal Exports, is our code name for MI6. You know, the building that's right here at this location where the security guard.
You can't miss it. It's the place that's blown. Yeah, you can't miss it. It's been blown up 2 times so far.
But it's okay. You know, M is only at her office for these hours of the day, exactly at this point. It's going to that kind of thing.
Here's where she lives. I'm not supposed to tell you that.
Her name's Olivia. So things like that, you know, we kind of work in the way that it is. If we do end up having this kind of a list, would you constitute Whereas the Kleb's shoes as being on par and iconic when it comes to the hat and the teeth?
Yeah, if we're doing like a villains list, yes.
I guess it's a memorable thing, but it's just a case of it's just a fucking knife on a boot.
Yeah, but they make a point to bring it back and die another day, even, you know. So it's on the list potentially. What do we think about the duck?
Yeah, so a seagull on top of a wetsuit is kind of like in the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Because it makes me it's almost like it's as doable and practical, I guess, as the briefcase, in a sense of like, oh, I can imagine someone doing it. But then when I imagine someone doing it, I kind of feel like, wow, this person must be the worst spy who's ever lived. It's one of those like things that you would see in like a comedy show where someone's trying to escape from prison and he's putting on like the most ridiculous disguises possible. Like he gets out of prison wearing a Robin Hood outfit or something like that.
Yeah, it's a potential for worst to me.
Yeah,
it's really stupid. And it's just weird to think it's really stupid, but there are still so many more that can completely upset it that it might not even be like B tier bad, you know?
I would say that again, if we're talking about the villain side of things as well, I'd say that the Goldfinger laser is among the most iconic ones as well.
Yeah, I like that is one of those kind of deals where like I'd put it on the list, but at the same time I could see the argument of not classifying it a gadget because it's an industrial tool.
It's a laser.
A freaking laser. If it was on a shark, it'd be a different story. Then it easily goes on there. Don't they have that in the third movie? It's been a while since I've seen Goldmember. We're going to eventually do that at some point. So.
It's one of the movies they have the freaking sharks with freaking laser beams on top of their heads. I think it might be Goldfinger, but not Goldmember. But
I think it's Goldmember because I think Scott gives it to Dr.
Oh,
Evil.
yeah. Are those sharks with freaking lasers on their head?
I love you, son. Yeah, and a little reference here about the whole, like, you know, hey, that briefcase from the last movie, we fucked it up. You know, that kind of deal. Where do we stand on the...
I know what you're going to talk about this one. You're going to talk about the jetpack in Thunderbolt.
Yeah, where do we talk about that? Because that's, to me, it's iconic as all hell, but it's so dumb. You know?
I fucking love that scene. I love that scene so much. It's just so bizarre. Just him just going off a roof with a jetpack on. I just found it hilarious.
It's because it has like almost nothing to do with the movie too. It's just sort of like Bond fights a guy in drag and then he flies away on a fucking jetpack, and it's like then that car ends up being speaking about the cars, it shoots the water back, you know.
I think what's going to happen here, Tony, is that you're going to say that you want to put it on the, at least as a contender for the worst, and me and Rob are going to say no. So that's basically where we're going to leave it here.
I honestly, I'd put it up. I wouldn't put it on Mount Rushmore, but it's top best just in terms of iconic. Like it's great.
I'll surprise you. I don't think it should go on the worst for Mount Rushmore.
But you don't think it should go on the best, though?
Oh, it certainly shouldn't. It's iconic and all these other kind of things.
I'm kind of in that. I'm in that boat as well, so I gotta feel like it's not. It's worth mentioning because it is iconic, but I don't think it should be. We should bother even noting it down because it's not going to go on either list anyway.
I put it on here because it is an iconic thing, but it's not going to get my vote over plenty other things. But I will say, despite like the Geiger counter watch and everything, that rebreather, I think that's worth putting on a potential kind of list when it comes to that, because that rebreather is useful as all hell. It comes back in Die Another Day with no fanfare too. It's not like, oh my god, the rebreather or whatever. It's just like, yeah, of course Bond's going to use that. It's fucking great. Like, he's got 4 minutes of extra oxygen in that. And it's simple. It's very spy-like. It's a little unbelievable that he can have 4 minutes extra in that little tiny thing, but I'll take that over, the radioactive homing pill or the tape recorder book, that kind of thing. I don't think it'll end up being on the Mount Rushmore. I think it'll end up being upset by a bunch of other things, but I think that's one of those, like, true fist pump in the air, like, that's a great gadget type of thing. Why would I do a fist pump in the air? What am I, the end of Breakfast Club or something?
Don't you
forget about the rebreather. I'm assuming you guys aren't as big on the rebreather.
The rebreather is great.
Yeah, but it's not like it's like the most bombastic gadget in the world, but it is one of the most useful. So I would say it's definitely a contender.
It's a contender because of the fact that it makes a comeback.
Could have been a contender. Could have been somebody. Let's talk about some of these from You Only Live Twice here. We've got the Safecracker.
I've got one of the worst. I've got one of the worst from You Only Live Twice. Fucking Little Nelly.
See, Little Nelly is on the same kind of thing to me as the jetpack. It's silly and it's stupid.
Yeah, but the jetpack's useful.
Oh, Little Nelly is useful.
Practical. No, it's not. It's completely impractical.
He's able to find the base and blow up a bunch of helicopters that stand perfectly still.
It's another fucking example of why Bond is the worst spy in the world, because let's take this bright yellow helicopter right into the middle of the air with absolutely zero protection. Doesn't even have fucking seatbelts.
You're not enclosed. It's nothing like that.
Yeah. It's just I despise that. What do they call it? They call it an auto gyro, apparently. Well, of course you know it's a shitty thing. It has its own special name attached to it.
Yeah.
This thing that never existed before Bond.
And doesn't really exist afterward either.
I'd say the safecracker machine is interesting because basically every single there are different iterations of the safecracker, and all of them get slightly more complicated and worse.
It's weird, isn't it? Because this is fundamentally probably the best one that he has. And then you get to the next film, which we're going to bounce back around, and this safecracker takes like a fucking hour. Yeah, it takes close to an hour to open the safe. It didn't even specifically say this. That's funny. Unlike the safecracker in the way. So it's like, why would he do that? Oh, because it's got a copy machine built into it. At the time, that was probably like, that's insane. You can copy things like that and do that. But in 2021, in 2005, it just, the safecracker things, they don't go on the list to me. They end up being, if anything, I would say that this safecracker could potentially be on the worst. I do think there's more embarrassing things that'll upset it, but if anything was going to go anywhere safecracker-wise, I'd say that that's the only thing that stands out to me, is that one's bad.
I mean, I like the fact that it has a photocopier attached to it. That kind of saves it for me.
You don't think that that's just kind of ridiculous that he sacrifices the time for that, when he could have just, like, I don't know.
I enjoy the versatility of it, or the fact that, when I say versatility, it can only be used as a photocopier and as a safe, but the fact that, like, oh god, it's a dual purpose gadget.
And he's got, the guy has to have a crane take it to him and off. So inconspicuous, right?
Again, I think as an actual spy gadget, it's completely impractical. It's fucking fun. It's a good. I find the thing pretty funny though. So
we've got the cigarette grenade, not grenade, the cigarette gun in You Only Live Twice, which is pretty cool. It's not anything that I think is Mount Rushmore worthy, but it's cool.
It's an interesting one.
The bow with the retractable spear, where the guy just tries to kill Bond, and he's just like, "Hey, you tried to kill me, just like Aki." All right,
Okay, that's one of the worst villain ones then.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I don't know why they have the piranha pool down here. That's not a gadget.
It's not really. Yeah, it's not really a gadget.
Here's something that maybe we should put down under one of these worst ones for the villains. The wooden plank in the airplane that Helga traps Bond that he's able to just jimmy out of.
Yeah, he just like why would you make this thing out of wood of all things just so he can karate chop down onto it or whatever? It's just so lit. Like the whole fucking plane that they're in is made of metal. Why did you have this one wooden thing installed?
And she's got this gas grenade. And it's like, I don't know, just shoot the fucker or something. Like, do anything like that. Why do you bring him onto an airplane so that you can hook him in with this wooden plank and then parachute out and hope that just shoot the guy? You had him tied up in a chair, you know.
Actually, to go back slightly quickly as well to if we are talking about like villain stuff as well. I forgot in Thunderbolt this is where you get the scene of the guy getting electrocuted in a chair.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Right at the start of the movie, and like that's the meme that lived on into Austin Powers, and like that scene of Will Ferrell going down into the thing is one of the funniest. It's one of the funniest like moments in that entire movie.
I'm still alive, but I'm very badly injured. I'm really looking forward to rewatching those movies. It's been so long.
Yeah.
What do you guys feel about radioactive lint? Because to me, this is one of the absolute worst.
It's one of the funniest statements I've been asked in my life. What do you guys feel about radioactive lint? Worst, or it's at least it's up there.
Because it's like, you mean to tell me that you've got these little homing beacons, and he was able to swallow a pill before, and then you make radioactive lint so that he could just have that in his pocket. And yeah, it's a little bit less obvious that it's a tracking thing, but it's radioactive too, so that's not good for him, you know?
Yeah, it's not for me, I think. So, well, I'd say it's definitely not one that I feel is in any way strong, so I can totally understand why it would be a contender for the worst.
Yeah. Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to put that safecracker on there, just to see if we can come back to it, because it's not going to be end up on there, but, yeah.
There's not actually that many, and considering how bizarre Diamonds Are Forever is, there isn't actually that many.
You'd think it'd be a little bit crazier. There's like the voice algorithm thing, which I think is really bad.
One of the things I think is actually quite, which is subtle, but I feel was pretty good, was the fingerprint, the fake fingerprint.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that it's very...
That's a great spy gadget, like, realistically.
Yeah. That's a good, solid spy thing. It's not something that makes it to where it's that memorable to me, but it's just like, oh, wow, that's useful, and that's something that they should do. They should focus more on that rather than doing these fucking mouse traps that you put in your coat. That might be one of the worst to me, because it's a mouse trap, for God's sakes.
I like the way they describe it on the Wikipedia article I'm looking at. They call it the pocket snap trap.
Yep.
It reads like a Pokemon entry. A small gadget hidden in the pocket to give a person performing an unwanted search on the wielder a painful surprise.
Yeah.
Le Bon Surprise was awful.
Ooh.
What about Q's ring,
machine?
which allowed him to win it? Yeah, to win the slots.
Not a Mount Rushmore thing, but I think it's hilarious that he spent his time doing that, and he's like, "Oh, I get to try this out now," and he just keeps winning the shit. That's a great Q moment for sure. Not a Mount Rushmore for me.
Yeah. I'd say. Yeah, I don't think really anything from Diamonds Forever is going to go on one side or the other, really. The pocket snap one maybe, but that's like only potentially for the bad one for that one.
Yeah, and like the fact that he's got these suspenders, I never remember that that's a part of that.
Oh no, I know one in Diamonds Are Forever that's the worst. The fucking water ball. The fucking ball that he lands on. That giant inflatable ball that he lands on to get onto Blofeld's base. And they just let him to walk up in a giant ball. Like one of those things that you would use in what do they call it? I don't know what it is, but like those stupid game shows or things like that, or when someone's
Like a
inside
giant
a
hamster
ball.
wheel almost?
Yeah,
like,
the giant hamster ball. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that is pretty fucking dumb, man.
Why is that not on this list?
I don't know. It's
It's not a
listed on
gadget,
mine.
it's stupidity. It's, hey, we're gonna put you in a ball.
Are they constituting that like a car?
Yeah, but it's just utterly bizarre, that one, because it's just a case of like, oh my god, this giant egg has landed in the middle of the ocean. It's just like, let's just let it get close to us, and then Bond just gets out, and then he just lets himself get caught and just moon onto there.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the point? I hate that one as well.
That
terrible.
movie's such a mess.
Yeah.
I love the magnetic watch.
Magnetism, darling.
It's not going to be the top 4, but I think that that's one of those like I'll just put Live and Let Die watch because yeah, who cares? But like I love that
funny
there's a moment that completely subverts the audience when everybody thinks that he's going to be able to do that to get the escape with the crocodiles, and then it's like, nope, it's tied up. What are you going to do now? I love that, and then it comes into play later on with the CO2 bullet that you can not only kill somebody with, but you can turn them into a balloon.
Yeah. I think that's up there just for the balloon.
If we're going to talk about villains thing, where do we stand on Teehee's arm?
That could be
great.
that could be on the list of these potentials. I'm gonna move these over here because I'm running out of room. Teehee's arms or hands. The
Okay,
arms or hands technically. I don't know. It's hands more than anything else, I guess.
I know we've also mentioned before about how we're not going to really class any of the like the bugs or the homing beacons and stuff like that, but I assume you have a soft spot for the Felix lighter.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty great for the joke, but yeah, it's not a Mount Rushmore type of deal. But it's funny as hell that it's just like, oh, look at that, a genuine Felix lighter.
Wait a minute. Something. Oh, God. I
Did you
feel
just get the joke?
yesterday- No, I feel like just yesterday you did that with something, and I can't remember what it was.
For the Batman Long Halloween thing?
It might have been, but I can't remember for what, and it's pissing me off. But yeah, Tony does love his puns, and what are you gonna do?
We recorded our Batman Long Halloween Part 2 fan tracks yesterday for anybody who's listening. Then we're recording this on August 13th. I don't know when this is going to come out. But you know you're going to get those types of jokes with me, so you know I appreciate it. Like I went to go see Free Guy, and of course I made the joke, I can't wait to see the sequel. Buy one, get one free guy. Just, I'm going to make the dumb jokes.
Right.
Even if nobody laughs, I'm going to laugh. So the genuine Felix Leiter's like, just kind of like 10 points to whoever made that up. Not on Mount Rushmore. Neither is the flute transmitter, or, you know, are they really classifying the flamethrower spray can? That really isn't even a Q branch thing. Yeah, this is unusual. It was not a Q branch gadget. Yeah, because it was just a can of aftershave that he put a cigar up to. That's not a gadget. That's just being innovative. Yeah. Where do we stay on the espresso machine, though? Because the espresso,
I mean,
makes...
all it does is makes coffee.
Yeah. Is that all it does? Give me my fucking spoon back, Bond. I wish that Scaramanga would have shot you. Oh, that hasn't happened yet? Well, I hope he shoots you in the next film.
Oh, well, speaking of which, again, we're not classing guns and weapons, but surely the golden gun gets a little bit of a mention in this one.
That would have to be on the list. Like we would bump anything off this list, even potentially Oddjob's hat, for the golden gun. Because the golden gun is the coolest thing probably in the whole series as far as gadgets go in my mind. It's just neat. I don't know. I fucking want one.
Why haven't you made one, Tony?
I tried to make one as a kid. I actually got a cigarette case that wasn't like a gold cigarette case, but it was like a fucking flimsy plastic thing. I didn't know anybody who really smoked, so I couldn't really get a whole lot of other things. But I got a little cigarette lighter, and I got a pen that I tried to fashion with this whole thing. I got a gold cufflink, and I was just sort of like, well, I don't know, tape it all together or something. Like, can't really do anything with it. But I've looked at the replicas, and they are too expensive for me to justify buying, at least right now. Donate to the Patreon.
Yeah, so he can waste his money on a fucking replica gun.
Yeah, come on.
That's exactly where all this money goes.
So I could do a video going, look at this. Neat, huh? Golden bullet, everything like that. Solex agitator, that's not a, whatever. But the prosthetic third nipple, it's a gadget.
Nah, I don't think so.
Of course, it's not going on the list. That'd be ridiculous if that's on there.
Oh yeah,
what's better though? Are you going to go in the same fashion that I am? What's better, the third nipple or the prosthetics that he puts on in You Only Live Twice?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Where do we stand on the fucking the fucking race alert here?
Yeah, I don't know how they thought that was supposed to make him look Japanese. Oh god, it's terrible.
I'd say if we potentially cast prosthetics as that, then I'd say that's one of the worst.
Yeah, let's put this here as a potential thing, because that we could potentially classify that as a gadget. I hate the wristwatch at the beginning of Spy Who Loved Me. Hate it. It's an ugly watch, and for a spy, for him to have this thing that's like just kind of printing out that, it's a label maker. It's stupid.
Yeah, there's nothing particularly special about it.
Yeah, but
it's also something I recall.
Maybe it wasn't stupid, like.
Yeah, I can't say like it stands out to me as like I would remember that one if you hadn't brought it up like off the top of my head. Like now I can picture it, but it's just a case of it's not something that I stood out to me as particularly egregious.
More than likely, it's not going to be something I'll make the argument for in the Mount Rushmore because it's useful in some way. But
this definitely isn't getting on the Mount Rushmore. But I really like the ski pole gun.
It's simple. It's effective. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a cool, why wouldn't he have a gun there? That'd be cool,
Yeah.
Not a big fan of the microfilm reader, but it's just another one of those like camera type things. Here's where we start getting really silly. The guillotine T-tray.
Key branch stuff, yeah. Yeah, the key branch stuff, like this is where it goes into overdrive.
Yeah. I can't say I'd put this one necessarily on the worst for sure, but it's really stupid because what's the likelihood you're going to need to have somebody sitting in that specific spot on that specific table with the specific T-tray that you're going to be like, all right, now I'll hit the button and do that. It's horribly impractical.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of the times where they just go, oh, how bizarre can we make some stuff here?
Yeah, it's just for a gag.
I think that's the only one of the Q branch ones that in the Spy Who Loved Me that really like stands out. I feel like the other ones are just like, hey, we're in this place here. Why don't we make as many stereotypical things as possible, like a camel saddle with a sword inside of it, or a shisha pipe which turned into a machine gun.
Yeah. Yeah, those are on this list. That's weird. This list is missing some. That's for sure.
I've got the full list on the Wikipedia thing, so I'm just filling in the blanks when I see it.
If there's something that I'm blanking on, definitely step in there and let me know.
But yeah, I'd say none of those ones are particularly memorable. When
it comes to the dart gun with Moonraker, I think that it's a really good one, but I don't think it's Mount Rushmore worthy.
It has a good. It obviously leads to like the final death of Nox, so it is. It does have some. Drax, sorry, wrong. I get the names mixed up every now and again. Drax, yeah. But I do feel like it has that memorable moment at the end of it, but I don't feel like its purpose is served enough throughout the rest of the movie.
It's got that. It's got the zero G machine that he escapes from. So it's definitely a useful one, but there's just kind of cooler things and more iconic things that we only have 4 spots for it. So it's like, really, are you going to give that one of the 4 spots? Nah, I can't make that argument.
We have the next edition of the safe cracking device. This time inside a cigarette case.
More efficient than the one that somebody's going to need to be like, hey, I'll bring a crane around to do. At least he's able to do that. We got the little camera. We got the
gondola
bolus.
hovercraft. I want to talk about the gondola hovercraft in this one, because that one is again. It's the fucking pigeon.
Yeah, if we had a list of a Mount Rushmore of James Bond animals, that pigeon's number 1, because that and the monkey from Live and Let Die, or I keep saying Live and Let Die today, Living Daylights and everything, but the gondola is amazing. And like, again, if we had a separate list too, that was like it's not the cars, it's like the boats and all the other things, like that gondola would be totally up there. It's not a Mount Rushmore for me, but it's super fun.
I think it's pretty stupid, personally. But
I like it.
Oh, it's completely stupid. It's fun.
But I like stupid things. We've talked about diamonds.
I mean, the fact that he's on this gondola, and then it becomes the action sequence that it becomes, and then it's just like, oh, it's a Q branch gondola, and then he goes on the land with it. It's just absolutely absurd.
Yeah, all the Q stuff again is just a little bit. Again, it's cool for the little scene it's in, but it's nothing that's going to stand out and stand the test of time, as it were.
And a lot of the other ones that are in Moonraker too, like he goes through these whole list when it comes to the CIA equipment that Goodnight has, or not Goodnight. I got them all over the place today.
Good Head.
That Good Head, has, and Nighthead's the other one. You just merge them together.
The flamethrower perfume is probably a particular favorite of that one.
That one's the coolest. Way better than the purse transmitter. I'm not a big fan of the poison pen as much. He does kill the boa constrictor with it, so it's useful. I don't know why he keeps it, but they're just like gadgets. The more memorable thing is the laser, but that's not even like a Q branch thing as much. They do have it in Q branch, but Bond doesn't use it, and I don't consider the Moonraker laser a thing that's like, just because it's in the video games, that it's more iconic than it is. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah,
I think we're mostly talking movies here.
Yeah. Game, if you're telling me like what are your favorite guns in the game, Moonraker laser's up there. It's not my favorite. Silver PPK and the RCP-90R, but
it looks fucking ridiculous.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's even worse when they're in the whole space fight sequence and they have like those weird things strapped to them,
Yeah. Doesn't work.
Not doing anything when it comes to the attack. It's a machine. It's not a gadget. It's a plaster cast.
I don't think that caused George Lucas to start quaking in his boots, really.
We got some goofy ones with the cast. We got the claw umbrella, horribly useless. I don't know why you would ever have that one. I hate the identigraph.
I thought that was a fucking funny scene.
Because it's just make him a nose, not a banana Q, that kind of thing. And it takes hours apparently, because it's like they go in there and they start doing that, and all they did was they made the character look like him, and then a couple hours go by and then they print out a picture of him. Like, it really shouldn't be taking as long as it is, but it's for the time it makes sense. It's that old kind of thing. To me, I don't like it, but it's not Mount Rushmore worst in my mind.
No, I don't think anything from Your Eyes Only would feature on either side of things. Maybe the umbrella, just because it's so unbelievably impractical.
I'd consider putting the claw umbrella in the same kind of regard as the guillotine tray, of just being like something that's like, why would you even bother? Who says let's give our agents an umbrella that if he forgets that does that, it's going to just completely sever his neck, you know? And what are you going to be in a situation where you're like, oh, this villain is here and I'm going to lend him my umbrella when it's raining? Really dumb.
Oh, good. We finally got an octopussy, which means we can talk about the fake crocodile. The Crocodile Submarine.
I'm just gonna go here and just put this here because it's that, and I'm gonna potentially put that on here because this is terrible.
That's a one-person submarine.
It makes the duck wetsuit thing look brilliant. And he gets 2 uses out of it.
Yeah, I know, but I wouldn't go that far. Like, at least this one is like an actual submarine. He has to use a fucking snorkel for the other one.
Yeah, but he can just toss it to the side. He needs to get into a crocodile for this. And there's that
I took that
silly part where it's like Octopussy thinks that Bond's been eaten by the crocodile and it's all sad, and then he's just in the fucking croc thing again. How does he get out of it? Like, this looks horribly uncomfortable.
I think there's 2 things also to mention. There are 2 more gadgets really to mention for Octopussy that like stand out, and they're both on the villain side of things. One for the worst, which is the backgammon dice. it's just super unaggressive, just loaded dice. Like,
yeah.
That's like super pressure. They just get crushed afterwards. But one of the best is the yo-yo saw.
The yo-yo saw's so weird, but it's fun to think that this dude actually is just kind of like, that's his go-to assassination tool. He could use a sword, he could use a gun, he could use a knife, he could use poison, and he's like, nah, man, yo-yos. Let's give me a big-ass buzzsaw. I'll go around the world and walk the dog.
I really like. I think it's super memorable, and it's something that can almost be tied to that movie.
It's a fun thing for sure. I think that this is hilarious in how terrible Bond is. Because this idea of just like, I'm gonna zoom in on her boobs, Q, that kind of thing, like, and that she doesn't even bother to move. She's just sort of like, whatever. Like, it's obviously it's not one of the worst things because the idea of like a wristwatch with a TV thing on it that you can communicate, do this, whatever, like that. Fundamentally, it's got some uses to it or whatever, but it's just funny how they were like, why don't we have this in the movie so Bond can act like a fucking 12-year-old?
Well, that's the purpose of Bond, is it not?
Yeah. I don't like the fountain pen. It's not awful. It's just like, you had a pen with a little bit of corrosive acid in it, and you use it to break out of the cell. Meh.
Yeah,
would you remember it if it's not on the list,
Well, he's right. It doesn't explode. It should explode.
Exploding thing's so much better, though. We'll get into that. I'll do the argument for it. But, yeah, like, do you guys remember him using the fountain pen in Octopussy?
No, but then again, there are a lot of elements of Octopussy which is difficult to remember.
I still think you got to rewatch it, Rob, to see where it plays.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just like it's not particularly memorable. In the grand scheme of things.
It's on the sillier side and everything too. So we got View to a Kill. I'm gonna say this one needs to go into the discussion for worst, because these glasses are huge, and he is just flat out moving the sides of them where you can see the things that he can be switching around on. It's obvious he's doing something, and he's standing out in broad daylight in a party just looking through a fucking window, and all it does is it lets him see a little bit better.
It's called fashion, Tony. Look it up.
That's what those 57-year-olds are wearing in 1980, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm glad that Elton John got a chance to contribute to this movie. I thought when you were talking about, because I just clicked on the screen and just saw you just going across onto the glasses. I was more thinking about you'd highlighted Snooper, the robot dog.
Snooper is really bad. Yeah.
It's like fucking like, oh, we just discovered who K9 is, and we're gonna recreate that in the Bond thing. I think there was also like there was a robot dog companion in the Doctor Who TV series as well that they might have ripped off at this point, but I'm not sure.
We're legitimately getting there now, which is very interesting to see how technology is moving.
I don't plan on getting a snooper in the future.
So in the I think this is based on so in the Doctor Who series in the UK, which are a very well-known TV series from the UK, they had a K9, which is just K9 as in like the letter and the number.
K and number,
yeah. Which is a robot dog, which was appearing on their TV from about 1979, about 1977 until about 1980.
Oh, so they ripped it off because of the A5.
Yeah. So there's just like a total rip-off of a robot dog from a pretty popular British TV series.
Which is pretty useless because it's like, hey, here's that robot dog, and then at the end it's like, well, let's do the robot dog in Stacy's house instead of just walking in there and trying to see if Bond's there.
Which is what it's like. It's like the thing with the TV wristwatch. It's like, oh, this could actually be quite a useful gadget, but all we're going to do is look at two people having sex.
Right.
Stuff.
Snooper is a potential for one of the worst types of things. The blindfold checkbook thing. It's like, whatever. Credit card lockpicks. Cool. Sure. Fine. Night vision goggles or night vision goggles. If we're talking milk bottle grenades as one of those things that's like this.
That was fucking hilarious as well.
I like them though. Like,
they're great. Like, oh wait, am I putting this on the wrong list here? No, okay. These are the worst things. They're useful too. Like, he gets the job done in that scene, and it's just fun. The idea that their concept of a grenade thing was like, hey, why don't we make the milkman? That's how you can get in here. The milkman thing and whatever. I'm going to save Rob the effort. I'm going to put this over on our list as a potential to talk about for, at least some capacity of some good stuff, because the Ghetto Blaster joke is fantastic.
You're damn right.
Right.
Something we're making for the Americans. It's called a Ghetto Blaster.
I feel like Rob should get his love for that out of the way now, because it is not going on the Mount Rushmore.
Tony just got it out of the way. We're making it for the Americans. It's called the Ghetto Blaster, and then the fucking boombox shoots a missile. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think that didn't they do some sort of a version of this for Saints Row?
Yes, and again, fantastic. A boombox that shoots missiles. Totally discreet. Nobody would ever go, oh, what's going on there?
And could you imagine Bond using it? Bond's walking down the street.
Oh, could be California.
Just blasting some music and walking with some swagger.
Personally, I could only imagine Roger Moore's Bond ironically using it.
And it would have been great.
But then he would have come up with a line of say, word up, homies. And that sort of like...
It has to be Roger Moore's Bond from this era too, when he's 60 years old.
Yeah, now I'm just imagining him using that thing. It's like the old Bond sister just shoots a bunch of henchmen at once and just sends them flying, and then he just looks down the camera and says, words to your mothers.
No, that's music to my ears. I can't do it. Or he's just like, oh, this would have been useful in Live and Let Die.
Oh no, it would just be along the lines of like, say, I always heard rap music was violent. It's hip hop music.
Still not the Beatles.
Well, if you're listening to the Beatles, you have to listen to it with the headphones on or whatever he says, right?
Yeah.
Roger Moore at that age, his version of this would be like a record player or a gramophone that can shoot missiles out of.
Can't make the case for the keychain being in the Mount Rushmore, but I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good that you can have some sort of detection device through that, and it is a good scene from that movie as well.
It's something that, like, I would put it down as, like, I'd make the argument that if we were making, which we're most likely not going to do, but if we were making, like, B and C tier types of things, like, I'd be like, all right, if it's C tier, I'm cool with that because it's not one of the most memorable ones, but if you think about it, it is really useful. He is able to use it like 3 or 4 or 5 times in the movie. They have it where they do the fun little joke of the whole thing of, you know, hey, this is how you activate it. You know, you whistle the first bar of Real Britannia, and Bond has to take off the gas mask to do it, which is just kind of funny. And then the wolf whistle. Oh, you mean? And then he's just like, oh, stop, because he puts it right in front of Q's face. And I love the idea that, like, it can open the locks. Yep, he uses it to open the locks. It's magnetic. He uses it to kill Whitaker that way. The explosive is used that way. And then at the end of the movie, it's the callback with Kara, where she's able to know that if she whistles, that she's able to be like, oh, okay, Bond's in the room, that kind of deal. It's like, it's in a movie that's not one of the most iconic ones, even though it's one of my favorites. So people wouldn't, you know, if they're thinking Bond gadgets and Bond tools and different things, they're thinking about, like, the ejector seat car. They're thinking of, you know, kind of more bombastic things like that. But the keychain's just like, okay, cool. You know, that works out. I like it. License to Kill's got this lighter. Now, it's not a tool in the Q branch kind of side of things. It's a lighter. It's just a bitchin' lighter.
Now, do you like this more than the genuine Felix lighter? Because this is a lighter from Felix Leiter, which he uses to light the villain on fire.
Oh, yeah. Because that whole idea that that's how he kills Sanchez makes it better. The genuine Felix Leiter joke is great, but this is also a genuine Felix Leiter.
But it's not a Felix. But it's not a gadget though, because it's just a lighter. So I can't in good grace put it into the list, even though it is very poetically used.
If that was something that Q branch said, we worked on this with Felix, like that kind of thing, like, oh, something I got the boys in Q branch to help me out with, then I'd be like, okay, all right, now we can gotta talk about it kind of a little bit. But it's just a lighter with a flame that's absolutely insane. The height that reaches on there, you would have thought that they would have tried that ahead of time, but they're just like, whoa, shit, all right, well, you know, you've got a fucking flamethrower in here instead. It's great, though. But I love the ones in License to Kill. The laser camera, not as much. The exploding alarm clock, Dentonite toothpaste, all these things combined. If we were to play that game and combine it as everything a man needs while on holiday, that's a Mount Rushmore for me. But you can't, for each individual one, say any of them goes on Mount Rushmore in my mind.
The exploding alarm clock has one of the great lines attached to it of, like, guaranteed never to wake up anybody that uses it.
Yeah.
It's a great line. But I don't think the only one, I think there are some good ones in License to Kill, but I think the only one that really stands out to me is like, okay, this is a cool and really useful thing, is the camera gun.
I even like the fact that it's Dentonite toothpaste.
I was gonna say I like the toothpaste because that's just fun, you know. And this movie in particular had more Q than a lot of the others. So that makes the gadgets here even better.
Q in License to Kill is probably my favorite Q element. Some of the other movies he has, like, some better scenes and different things, but, like, that's Q, like, steals the show almost.
That's my uncle. Meet my cousin.
Oh, we must be related.
I mean, it's not a difficult one. Timothy Dalton is the Bond that you're up against.
That is fair. He does provide a lot of the color that Dalton leaves behind.
The rake, Q just throws it away. I love that he brought that along. He's like, oh, there they go. All right, fuck it. Q's great. God, I love Q. Now we start getting into some interesting things here with GoldenEye. Now, the gun, the piton gun, the mine, binoculars, whatever, not the thing. This wheelchair missile launcher thing's fucking awesome. It's not a Mount Rushmore thing, but how cool is that of an intro for Q of, what happened to the leg? Skiing? No. Hunting. Cool scene. One of my favorite scenes in the entire franchise is this Q scene. The document scanner, the phone booth trap, they're all fun, and they have that compressed air that shoots that woman behind them when they do that. Did we classify the sandwich?
No, that's his lunch.
Wanted to make sure, just in case.
It's not a gadget, it's his lunch. That's the line.
Don't touch that. My lunch.
I have a pack of cards that came out from GoldenEye that I had found at one point. And there's a card of Desmond Llewellyn eating that sandwich. That, I guess they must have filmed a couple seconds afterward of him taking a bite of the sandwich, but they made that a card. And I'm like, this card, if I'm going to get rid of these cards at any point, I'm going to keep that one because that's fucking great. But I got to put on here, it's at least in the discussion in my mind, if not one of the guarantee things. Worst pen, I'm just going to label it, and the laser watch. I think that the watch is so useful and great. It's also got the detonator to it, so it's multi-purpose. The ballpoint pen's got a great scene to it. That tension is awesome. They make good jokes when it comes to it with the 3 clicks. Oh, how long did you say that the fuse was? And then when Q shows him off, don't you say it. What, the writing's on the wall? Oh, along with the rest of them.
Yeah, it's so good. Desmond Llewellyn looked like he was so happy to be there in that scene, which makes the scene even better.
Plus, I have one, so yeah.
Yeah, I think they're both really good ones as well. The thing that I kind of push down the ballpoint pen for is the fact that it's really serendipitous. One, it's a case of you just so happen to come across the one and only real Bond henchman that has a clicking tick.
Yeah. It's a little coincidental that it happens, but I mean, Bond could have just clicked the grenade and thrown it, if that was the case.
Sure.
Tomorrow Never Dies, we got the GPS encoder, that doesn't really count. The cigarette lighter, it's just a grenade. It's cool that he's got it, but it's, it's just a grenade. The phone, I make a case for.
That's a fun one. It's really beyond the fact that it's just a phone. It's a car remote control.
It controls the car. It's got this, what they show right here. I'll make it bigger if they've actually, of course it's not small. He uses that to break the lock to get the GPS encoder. And then he uses that taser element for the thing with Dr. Kaufman. Recall 3 send and jolts him like that. It's got the fingerprint scanner, which he uses on the safe. This is useful as all hell, and it's a phone. So he doesn't have to worry about carrying around some Crocodile Submarine or something,
Yeah, it is it's a very versatile one, so that helps it stand out in a positive sense.
It's weird to think, I'm going to make a strong case for it as being a Mount Rushmore thing, and to be an Ericsson mobile phone that's in the top, but it's you add all these other elements to it. It's way higher than the fan with the blades to it and everything.
We kind of discounting all of Wayland's extra.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't probably be anything like that either. The dragon statue, would that really rank high? Can
we talk about on the villain side of things, the CVAC drill? Because that's just an awesome death scene for Carver at the end of it.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah.
They're my favorite main villain death. Yeah, it's so brutal, I love that death. It was one of the first ones that I had seen as I started researching, because I was just going through a lot of the iconic scenes, and it's so good.
I hate how he just sits there and just it's gonna
but
again,
how
it's
is
like
that
the
your
Austin
issue
Powers
when
thing.
Bond villains are stupid.
Yeah, he's
So how is
really
that an
dumb though,
issue?
because he's just like, just step to the side like Bond did. He's just sort of like, oh no, it's gonna kill me. It's what's Maverick's thing again.
Boiling acid.
Yeah. Why are you bringing Batman Forever in?
I don't know. Just the way that you said it.
It's boiling acid. Explosive wristwatch, blah, 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 blah. And
Yeah,
other
you
things
know
like
words.
that. Words are words. W's and R's and other letters, things of that nature. World's Not Enough got some cool ones. I wouldn't put the detonator spectacles on the top of the list, whatever. The bagpipe flamethrower is pretty fucking cool. Not a Mount Rushmore, but that's a fun moment too when you start hearing the same funeral sound as what the Robert King funeral bagpipes were playing, and then it's a flamethrower. Yeah.
It is pretty cool though.
I don't say thumbs up for a Mount Rushmore thing when it comes to the ski jacket or the X-ray goggles, shades. They're memorable, but nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in I mean, there's some decent ones that are it's not enough. There's none that really like grab me as like, oh, this has to be on the Mount Rushmore. This is super exciting in general.
I think it's really a testament to how good Q Branch is when they have that grappling hook in his wristwatch, and that's able to support him. Because that thing doesn't
Yeah, it's
get
amazing
connected.
technology. Yeah.
It's the size of like a floss kind of cord, and then the actual little hook can't be bigger than a paperclip, and it barely hits the wall. Bond's able to go up. It's like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah, just amazing technology.
The chair doesn't count. I don't know why that's listed under here. It's literally a torture chair from a different era, and it's not a Q thing and whatever, anything, you know.
But it is an interesting torture weapon. Like a great scene.
Leads to a great moment of one last screw.
Yeah.
Fantastic line.
Diner of the day, we got a whole sort of just weird shit. The surfboard with the stuff inside, not all that crazy. The transmitter life, okay, not all that crazy. Cell phone, not all that crazy. Virtual combat training simulator, okay, you're getting a little bit unbelievable
That's
at that
just
point.
VR nowadays.
Yeah.
That's VR nowadays.
But it's like so at the time, and it's so like big enough that, you know, Moneypenny's able to change the algorithm so she has sex with Bond.
Well, yeah, it's just one of the amazing. It's like literally, it just feels like reality almost in the sense like, oh my god, we created this amazing virtual reality headset where we can like practice combat simulations without any trouble and stuff like that, and just build up our repertoire and build agents up. And then one of the first people that gets their hands on it says, "I'm going to use it to have sex with someone."
Yeah, as one does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the porn industry, they control a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's the reason why we have Blu-rays instead of HD DVDs, because the porn industry backed the Blu-ray. I read articles
It's
about
so
it at the time.
crazy
It's
how-
funny.
Like, they really are ahead of the game with all of those distribution channels.
But you do have to imagine though that at least there is a good proportion of people that if they got their hands on some sort of technology, would create some sort of like virtual, well, beyond just even virtual reality, being create like some sort of like simulation, that thing. They would just basically use it to say, okay, I'm going to have sex with this celebrity and then this celebrity and then this.
I mean, look at how
Futurama.
like, people are getting hired on their level of deep fake technology.
Yeah.
You're
Like,
you're one hunk of man, Philip J. Fry.
Yeah. See, this is all the more reason why we should not have Snooper.
oh, there you go.
Someone out there's going to be like, huh. Yeah. There's sick people out there. There's rules about it. 34 of them at the very least. They bring back the laser wristwatch, though. All the more reason for me to be like, see, that's great. And the rebreather and everything. The ring.
All right. Not feeling the ring. The single digit sonic agitator, I think they're fine.
Ultra high frequency single digit sonic agitator that he conveniently, of course, because it's convenience is a big part of the Bond gadgets, is standing on top of a glass floor with a gun to his head that he can put his fist on the ground and do that. And that's something that seems more so when they were trying to think of a gadget and somebody's like, how about a ring? What do we do in a ring? I don't know. We'll figure that out. Well, we did a camera ring. What else can we do? It's a radio signal? I've done that a bunch of times. So it's not going to be as good as the lint, that kind of thing. I hate the Dream Machine. Of course, it's not a cute gadget, but that's just absolutely stupid.
Yeah, I mean, we could put that into the negative villain side at the very least. All right, so I don't know whether this counts as a gadget, but where do we stand on the fucking paraglide, like surfboard thing?
Not a gadget. It's just a car, and he just is innovative with it and terrible.
Yeah, I just had to bring it up because it's the worst thing. It's one of the worst things that ever happened in any Bond movie. So.
Also, not a Bond gadget in the Q branch side of things, but I think that it needs to go under this list. The Graves suit.
Awful.
Gustav Graves has a briefcase kind of control board from Vlad and says that he wants him to tweak things and he wants to make it, I forget how he says it. It's like, not aerodynamic. What's the thing that he says? I'm blanking on what it is, but he's like, don't you have any respect for whatever the word was of just being like, it needs to be like more tactical and whatever. And then we see him and he's turning around in that slow motion thing and he's got those stupid goggles on and it's all like, wow, the song. And oh God, it's absolutely terrible. And that's how he dies, is that gets electrocuted back into him and then he gets sucked into the airplane engine. This movie had like 60% great ideas and 40% pure insanity nonsense. Like somebody was just kind of like, we have 4 writers in the room and that guy has to be coked out of his head every time he says anything. Like
a lot of the throwback gadgets were really fun and some of the stuff that made this movie worth watching in some ways, but a lot of it's also just very cringe. I will say we go from this to what the Craig movies end up being, which don't really have gadgets, so I kind of appreciate Die Another Day in that way.
That they actually had like some gadgets.
Yeah.
It's the two extremes. It's let's go so far into absurdity that we have to say, no, we don't do anything, instead of being like, I don't know, remember how you had like that briefcase that was pretty cool? You could just do
also,
that.
If you cut the movie off with Moneypenny's VR session and don't say it's a VR session, it's a great ending.
Yeah, much better ending than
even when
I'm
you're
so
bad.
good, especially when you're bad. That's the end of Pierce Brosnan is bad. It's just like awful. But the Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, and all this, it's basically this. Bond has a cell phone. He has multiple radio transmitter things or things that can track his location. For 5 movies.
Can I make the argument for the implant equipment to be on the worst list just because what do you need the implant for? You have a cell phone? You're already tracking him?
What, you're not a fan of Smart Blood?
No.
I hate the idea that, in particular, and I talked about this when we did the reviews, I really hate that they're like, okay, the portable implant equipment in Casino Royale, they're like, oh, there you go, it's actually a chip inside of you, and now you can't turn your phone off or do anything like that. Okay, cool. And then they're like, hey, a couple movies later, Bond, you know how like you keep doing that? Well, now we're gonna put it in your arm and you'll say ow the same way, and hey, we thought of something, didn't we? It's like, no, you just did this 3 movies ago. Can't think of anything else. Oh, we got a phone in this one? Okay, okay, fine. Yeah.
The Smart Blood is quite underwhelming. You imagine that you'd be able to cut yourself and then it just like forms into some sort of mathematical equation in front of you or something. Just like, or it bleeds out and I don't know, it can turn into any other form of liquid
Like
that you can sustain yourself with.
T-1000?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you cut yourself, and then it's like, oh, good, it's now turned into water and stuff like that. I can drink this instead. It's like it's not very smart blood. It's just my blood. Just it's actually like I'm not say dumb blood or anything like that. But it's just a case like, oh, the only thing this manages to do is tell people exactly where I am at any given moment in time. Well, that's that's like one of like I don't know one of the billion features you get on a regular smartphone.
Mhm.
So it's not like super smart. Like it's more detectable blood.
And they're like, remember how
That's
we
one
used
thing.
to back in the 60s give you pills that were radioactive for you to swallow? Well, now we're just going to inject smart blood, nano, whatever.
See, but I don't. I mean, I like the fact that they have that gun in it as well. That's like allows you to detect it based on Bond's part and print. I know it's like it's a derivative of the pre-existing model in
Let's kill.
License to Kill. Yeah, but it's still a useful gadget. But my perspective on the Craig era is like it's a bunch of stuff which is practical and it makes sense in the context of the movie and moving in the direction of a more quote unquote serious approach to spying and a more technologically driven approach to spying. But it's none of the stuff is actually particularly either super exciting that it can be on the positive Mount Rushmore, but none of it just makes me roll my eyes and want to put it on the negative side either.
Right. It's just kind of bland and uninteresting rather than offensively bad.
Mm.
Like, as
Yeah,
much as I don't like the idea that they're like, hey, he carries around a little pocket radio that's bigger than the last time he had a little transmitter device, it's just like, okay, well, that's just kind of stupid. It's not, the claw umbrella or something, So unless we end up thinking about some extra things or whatever, this is kind of what we're working with here on our screen. And you guys want to start with the worst or the best? What do you think we should do?
I think the worst would probably be easier to do.
Yeah, let's get the worst out of the way. So I think we have to include the like. I
Here
think
are
we can
two that
include.
I'd make an argument for.
See, I know you're going to go for the Crocodile Submersible. My argument is the Fake Duck is worse than the Crocodile Submersible.
Well, let's do this. Let's make a, I don't know, competition out of this. If we go with either of those two, my vote goes to the Croc, your vote goes to the Duck. Rob,
Yeah.
if we end up going with either of those two, which one gets it?
My vote would probably go to the Duck.
The Duck to be on it and the Croc to not be.
Yes.
Okay, so then if we do that, then that's a 2-1 vote, taking that out of the mix. And we're not going to put both on there by any means.
Oh.
Unless you just go like, they're both so bad that they end, whatever. But I do think that the sunglasses is really bad. Because it's just so obvious and it doesn't really serve a good purpose. It's not memorable outside of the idea of if you've watched the movie enough times, you go, yeah, it's the one with the stupid sunglasses,
Yeah, but it shares a scene with it shares the scene with the famous line of "I'm happiest in the saddle."
It's overtaken by a great line, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Happiest
But
in the saddle.
But the fact it's associated with the same scene just infinitely elevates it. I would say among these ones, I'd say it's definitely a contender. I think that Radioactive Lint is a lot, personally, just because it's just so shit sounding.
I'd potentially put that on that.
We could have had any sort of tracking device for some, and I we're just gonna make it out of lint because that makes it like, oh, no one suspects the lint.
That's I'm just
Should
picturing
have stuffed it inside his belly button or something. Maybe that would make it even more hidden.
I'm thinking of
agree with that.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition thing. No one expects the radioactive lint, I'm cool with putting that on the list. Of course, if we go through here and we go, okay, we make arguments, whatever. But I'm cool with tentatively at least putting it on there. Yeah. One of the things I really hate about the voice algorithm recorder is that it changes it in the room. and they don't have anything like to their mouth or anything. It really fundamentally does not work.
I mean, are we counting because that one isn't a quote-unquote
Oh, that's right.
bomb.
Yeah, I forgot to put that on there. It's not a Q branch. Well, no, actually, Q branch has their own. Remember?
Oh yeah, they do. Oh
That's
yeah,
why,
they do have.
yeah.
One. All right. I think so, but again, it kind of feels like something that you'd expect it to. I don't think it's a good rendition of a existing gadget, but I can almost feel like that's the type of gadget that I would expect them to have used at some point in the Bond series.
It's a little more Mission Impossible to me. But
yeah,
if I had to pick between two from Diamonds Are Forever, picking the mousetrap. Because it's a fucking mousetrap that he has there. Like,
yeah,
they didn't even, like, it's a
dumb.
goddamn mousetrap.
Yeah, it's really dumb. I'm happy.
It is pretty dumb.
I'd be happy to put the mousetrap into this.
Yeah.
If we're counting the "You Only Live Twice" disguise, it has to be on this fucking list. It's because it's not even just awful and it's like completely ineffective. It's racist as well, so it's like just ticks all categories.
The argument I'd make for it not being on the list is it's from Tiger Tanaka instead of Q Branch, but it is used for Bond. But it's also not as much a gadget as it is just prosthetics.
Okay. We'll think about that.
It's terrible in so many ways. Horribly offensive. But it's like, gadget-wise, I don't think it's much of a gadget.
My arguments against putting either the Guillotine T-tray or the claw umbrella into it, just because that's just like experimental stuff that Q Branch was working on that Bond never saw any action with. So I think they're just like, oh, what would be a funny thing to put into here? Like this, let's have an umbrella that traps somebody's head or stuff like that, or a T-tray that can chop someone's head off. Just like, okay, it's just an inoffensive part of an overarching Q Branch scene. So
and it is supposed to be funny, which it is.
Yeah. So I don't think either of them should be included into this.
I'd actually, since we were talking about the Only Live Twice thing, I'd actually kind of make the argument that maybe the fake duck doesn't really constitute as a gadget either, because it is just a disguise.
No, but you're just saying that so you can get the crocodile submersible into it.
Well, the croc definitely is a gadget, but I might not even say, if you guys aren't voting the crocodile thing, I mean, that might not be on the list either, but more that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, the fake duck, it's really just you put a fake duck on top of a wetsuit. It's not like it is a gadget.
It's a disguise. It's a disguise, not a gadget.
Right, yeah.
Okay, but I would also say the crocodile is more a disguise than a gadget, even though it is obviously a submarine. Its purpose, the reason why it's different is the fact that it's a crocodile, so that's more of a disguise. It's a disguise on top of the gadget.
What do you think about Snooper?
So it's something that could have had some really funny things attached to it if they decided to use it more. I think it's really, really, really underwhelming. And it's a derivative of something that was being used on a kids' TV show.
And it's used to get introduced and then to end the film in the last Roger Moore film. I'd move it. No. I'd move it to the list if you guys are cool with it.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy
with that.
I know you don't like the safe cracker. I know you don't like the safe cracker. I think that it's just a funny thing, and so I want to avoid putting it in there.
This is kind of like what we're working with here. If we remove this because it's just a disguise, and if we kind of remove these, they're a swatch. It's not all that bad. It's not worse than worse. It's just stupid in some ways, but
yeah, I think it's one of those four. And if we're discounting the fake duck, and I don't want to put the crocodile submersible because I actually think that even though it's dumb, but it's still useful as a one-man submarine. I would say that out of those two, the sunglasses probably would get the choice from me.
You'd go that. I'd go Croc or sunglasses. Rob, what are you thinking?
I wouldn't go sunglasses. It doesn't offend me. I'd go Croc.
You'd go Croc?
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch mine to Croc then. How about we do this though, because we did have the whole discussion about the fake duck thing. I have a tentative kind of 5 sort of deal.
Oh, we'll put the duck in there as well. We're not gonna. I mean, the duck and the I guess the duck and the
Like the duck and the croc, they could be one and the same or something.
yeah, they're almost like, if we can't class the duck, then we just say, but basically have like this own little like short, small umbrella category of animal based disguise gadgets.
Well, if we have an umbrella category, this needs to go there.
Oh yeah, of course.
I hate me too. Leave a comment below.
But no,
Yeah, so this is kind of what we're working with.
Yeah.
We make our own rules. We don't need a definitive number 4 or whatever. But we will try to get a definitive 4 on the best. Little Nelly not going to be on there. That was more of a discussion type of thing. Same thing with the jetpack. That's when I was making the list in a different fashion and lost track of things.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm kind of thinking. I think that I would probably go maybe this is kind of weird. I would potentially do this. I'd potentially go with those 4. Oddly enough, the Ghetto Blaster potentially being one of those, because
no, it can't. It can't be on this list.
Can make the argument in some fashion. When we do these Mount Rushmores, sometimes we do them based off of the best, and sometimes we do them based off of symbolic of categories. There is a whole category of Q branch gadgets that are silly gadget. Like, we could even do a separate side thing of like the Q branch silly gadget Mount Rushmore, and the Ghetto Blaster would be on there. And it's like, is that, if not one of the best indicative Q branch silly gadget things? Like, I'd be comfortable doing a supplemental list of the 4 funny ones and having Ghetto Blaster.
I just want to point out that I'm not the one saying this.
Right. And that's not a Q branch thing, so don't put that on there. But I kind of like the idea of having a 4 of the silly things and making the Ghetto Blaster one of those if it doesn't go on there. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that. So if you were to do like some of the sillier ones, I would say you go with the Ghetto Blaster. I think the Bagpipe Flamethrower.
I can be cool with that.
Would fit into there. Maybe the Dentonite toothpaste.
Maybe the
whole
group of the Man on Holiday thing.
Yeah.
And then
I'm looking at some of the ones, because surely one of the ones from the more ones would be one of the ones that would fit into this. So let's see, what have we got? So we got the I'm just going through all this. We've got the Indian rope trick rope. We've got the door with spikes. We've got the digital the watch which shows TV, that shows boobs. We've got the arm cast. We've got the spikes umbrella. Got that on the worst ones. That obviously won't be in there. We've got the let's have a look. Got the exploding bowlers. The Mexican machine gun.
We got the it's not really like a silly one as much, but we forgot to talk about the little private jet airplane in Octopussy. That's not going on the list anyway. We didn't also mention the thing in the Man with the Golden Gun of Scaramanga's plane. Oh yeah, the car side of things. Yeah.
Got like the cement sprayer, or the shisha pipe that turned into a machine gun.
Oh, you know what could be potential for this? The slot machine thing.
I was like, yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's a nice little fun one as well. I mean, if we really wanted to go like, this the most dumb ones ever, we could put the sandwich in there.
I had typed that. I don't know if you saw it on the screen. I typed sandwich just for the sake of it. Well, if we do that, that's potentially for that. If we think of anything else, we might go back to it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with those ones just because like they're ones that also typify the silly little cute thing. Just because I didn't want to put the Ghetto Blaster on the main one, just because it's only used for a joke, a quick gag, whereas the attaché briefcase, and that is the absolute certainty, is the grandfather of these Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I think we all agree that that's on there, right?
Yeah, the
Thumbs up
briefcase.
on your own too, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I just want to say I'm glad that we worked a way into getting the Ghetto Blaster onto a Mount Rushmore. That is not something I saw coming. I thought I was going to say something and Callum would tell me to shut up and we'd move on.
Oh, it was on the way.
Do you guys all sign off on the phone from Tomorrow Never Dies?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was a very useful and versatile one, so I can appreciate that. I think the rebreather should be on this just because it's something that is gone back to every time, and it's just super practical.
I can sign off on that. And then
Yeah.
I'd go out because watches are a big thing. He's had so many watches, and if we go with he's got the phone thing and he's got a watch as like two of the regular things, I think the laser watch with the explosive trigger in it from GoldenEye is way more memorable than anything other than potentially the one from Live and Let Die with the magnet in it. I think it's between those two more than anything.
Yeah, I'd go with the laser watch out of the two of them. I just think it's more what you'd expect from Bond.
And the Live and Let Die watch does have the little buzzsaw, so they both have two things to it. But my personal bias is at the very least the laser watch to me is cooler. But they also have the laser watch come back, and they didn't do that with the magnet watch, so it's got a twofer with that. So that's kind of the rebreather argument too. I think that's a damn good list. The briefcase from Promotion with Love. You've got the phone from two things from the Brosnan era and two things from the Connery era, but the two things from the Connery era come back in other movies, and the one of the things from the Brosnan era comes back in another movie too. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
Just having looking at that list, I'm not saying that the other gadgets themselves aren't like great and they're not deserving of the place, but I just feel like it just feels weird that I feel like the greatest gadget they've ever produced came in the second ever movie. That briefcase is just so iconic.
And it's a briefcase. Like it's
exactly.
not some wacky technological thing. It's like, hey, you got a gun in here, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's the perfect blend of just being like something that you could imagine a real spy carrying around, but also being wacky enough that it just like, oh my god, that's so amazing that they would do that sort of thing. It's just, it's a perfect combination. It's one that I don't think they've exceeded yet. They probably never will.
And I mean, let's be honest, there's a reason for that. It's if they ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, like when things are done right, they often stand out.
I guess to round this list out, because we do have these things written down, we might as well kind of do that while we're at it. If we made we don't have three, or we only have three things, not four, for this Mount Rushmore of awful villain tools. I can't think of any.
You could add Con's dice into it if you wanted to.
I don't think that's really all that offensive. There's got to be worse ones. There's the Dream Machine.
Oh, would you really want to put both two of Graves' things into it?
Potentially. We could, if we think of another one, we could potentially bump one of the two.
I don't know whether it counts as a gadget or not, because we don't actually technically see it happen. But can we try and weasel in Blofeld's cloning machine?
I respect this.
Well, it's not a cloning machine. He just gets the plastic surgery for everybody. So that can't count. That.
You don't see it.
No, he says the plastic surgery.
We see the facility. We see the facility
with the goop,
how it's used and stuff like that. Yeah.
There's got to be something else that's like, I'm trying to think if there's
I'm just having a quick look through and just see if anything catches my attention.
If only we knew what was in that mojito.
Mojito?
Let's see. I don't really want to. I'm going to put the Grot wristwatch thing, because even though it doesn't actually kill him, it's something.
It's cool.
Part of me wants to put his arm into that, because that just like leads to his death. So, but it's, I think it's too cool to put it in there. It's just like, oh, it's a nice little interesting part of his character. Let's see
And there's unoffensive things too, like the flute that Baron Samedai has. It's like, well, it's not bad, whatever, but like.
Yeah, I guess we can't class any of these snakes as gadgets, even though they're made of plastic. Still looking through.
Can't really say that the whole model and room that Goldfinger has going on is a gadget.
What about Zoran's walking stick?
Oh, with the little trigger on it for the thing. It's pretty dumb, but I don't think it's that bad.
Okay. I'll keep moving down the list then, see if there's anything else. Zenya's legs don't count, right?
No, those weapons are great.
I could mention we could mention the CVAC drill just because it kills the guy that uses it and stuff like that. Trying to see if anything else.
Sanchez doesn't have anything.
What about Okay. Oh, actually, I've got it, and I don't know whether you're going to class this as a gadget or not, but I feel like if we're struggling for it, I might extend to it. Blofeld's torture device inspector.
That completely useless thing.
Because it's completely ineffective. It doesn't do the thing that it was designed to do.
He's like, I'm going to drill this into your head, and you're not going to remember things, and you completely are fine.
I would sign off on that one. I really think that's even though it's not really, I guess it doesn't count as a quote unquote gadget, but I feel like it's mechanical and it does things. It's like it's a gadget in the same way that Little Nelly is, because Little Nelly's not a gadget; it's a vehicle.
Do we maybe classify the voice algorithm recorder from Diamonds Are Forever?
I mean, if you think it's that bad, I think the torture device is worse.
Yeah. Oh, maybe we come. Oh, wait. Do we have that written down about the Helga? Okay, I do have the Helga Brand thing right now. I was just like, oh, of course that thing. Well, Dr. No's hand's definitely a part of this. I don't know. This is a questionable thing. Let's do the more important one. Golden Gun, guaranteed, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Oddjob's hat, guarantee for everybody.
I'd put that forward as one of them. Yeah, definitely. And I think Jaws teeth should fit into it as well. I guess it's not technically a gadget.
Yes, I've been saying things in agreement with you guys. I didn't realize that I was muted. Golden Gun, yes, and Oddjob's hat, absolutely.
I'd say those, and then I'd almost kind of make the argument of the milk bottles.
I would sign off.
I could see the shoe or the milk bottles more so than the laser or the hands, because the laser is just kind of a normal tool. It's not like it's a specific like gadgety type of thing.
Yeah, but it's the way that it's used.
That's true too. It is an iconic scene, so I might go laser over milk bottles, even though I prefer milk bottles.
But I'm also of the mindset where I don't like to put something from the same movie in the same Mount Rushmore unless it's absolutely merited. So if you've already got Oddjob's hat, I wouldn't put Goldfinger's laser in there as well. So out of those choices, my choice would be either Necros milk bottles or Teehee's hands.
I'd lean a little bit towards the shoe in the sense that they
actually, no. The one that I would put in is the yo-yo saw.
I'm not putting the yo-yo saw on that. It's great, but no, not to me.
It's so funny though.
I could make the argument with the Kleb shoe because it comes back again and it's used in the final villain's death sequence and it kills somebody in the movie, and they talk about the idea of we need to work on a better poison and like the injection system and everything. That's definitely a gadget.
Yeah, but I can't be super overawed by just a knife that pops out of a shoe. Just doesn't do it for me.
If we go to these three, Callum, you say Teehee's hands out of those three?
I like Teehee. I like Teehee's hands, yeah.
Rob, what do you say out of these three?
I do. You know what? I'd say the shoe.
Who throws a shoe, honestly? Then
Who
I think
stabs a shoe?
I'd make it 2 for the shoe then, more so than the Necros milk bottles, even though I really love that, but it's hard for me to say that that's more of that. Yeah, the milk bottles is just so fun and everything, you know?
The shoe is iconic.
And that kind of works too. Jaws' teeth, Rose's shoe, Oddjob's hat, Scaramanga's gun. Yeah, you know.
You know, it's one of those sad things that's like, God, those are all some pretty old movies.
Yeah, you don't have like Mr. Hinks's fingernails. You know, like. But yeah, that's
his fingernails, Tony.
That's the gadgety side of things. Hopefully you enjoyed this breakdown that we did. And we have one more left that we're gonna do for this whole tier list Mount Rushmore kind of gimmick, which is gonna be a fun and interesting one because we're gonna break down the Bond girls in the next one. Gonna be lots of discussions of, yeah, but she's prettier. So she takes a slight edge over the other one. Oh, that character is so much better. Oh, but yeah, that's
I'm gonna
in this
knock
movie.
Tiffany Case every chance I get.
So did Bond. Jokes like that too. So, stay tuned for that one when we get to that edition. Tell us your Mount Rushmore lists and your tier list ideas and any kind of thoughts on the cars and the gadgets that you might have in the comments below. You know, if we thought like, the milk bottle should definitely be on here, like different things like that, let us know. Do you think that the duck suit is a gadget or not? Do you think that Dr. No's hands are terrible? Whatever it might be. Chime in and keep the discussion going. And if you are just following everything else that happens on fanboysanonymous.com, you'll see plenty of other things that are over there. If you are interested in anything else that I'm working on, you can follow me at Tony Mango and on the other things under a mango tree like Smart Out Moment. You can follow what these guys have, and they're getting up to, they're getting up to like what Rob is there over on Dude Felice.
Yeah, I'm over at Dude Felice on every single social media platform, including Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. Basically, you type that in and you're going to find me. So just check all that out. If you are into the pro wrestling stuff, don't just check out Smart Out Moment. Check out Fightful.com, because Fightful.com breaks a lot of pro wrestling news, especially over on Fightful Select and the Patreon system we have going on over there. And I also do a lot of great retro content with Callum Wiggins, which I'm going to pass over to you right now.
Yep, you can check me out on Twitter at Wigmeister14. The retro content that Rob is referring to, of course, is both 2001 A Wrestling Odyssey and the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast, which you can find playlists on the YouTube channel, in the Smart Moment archives if you're checking us out through any of the checking out the Smart Moment channel through any of the podcast platforms as well. So make sure you hit up that if you're interested in more retro pro wrestling content. Other than that, check out smartcommon.com. I do some writing over there every now and again, the power rankings. But if you want to find out which wrestlers at the top of the list and which ones are falling out of favor, then that's the place to check that out as well. And yeah, anything pro wrestling side, make sure you're checking all that stuff out.
All right, everybody, that's going to do us in for this one, but we still have more Review to a Kill coming your way. We do have that one more episode of from Recap with Love. And then we're going to get into some other stuff. We haven't 100% decided exactly what is going to be the next thing after this, but we do have ideas in mind of maybe we talk a little bit of a preview of sorts of what we think is going to happen with No Time to Die. Maybe we get into some fan track stuff and watch some other movies. Maybe we actually bite the bullet and check out the Casino Royale stuff that came before the Daniel Craig film. Maybe we actually bite the bullet and check out Never Say Never Again. Maybe there's some video game stuff. Maybe there's a lot of different options. So again, drop your comments below about what you want to see with that. But whatever happens next, we know at the very least the absolute next thing is going to be the Bond Girls discussion. So click on that one when it's out, and we'll see you there. But now it's time for us to geek out.